Republican or Democrat, conservative or liberal. That's right, I'm gonna hit the taboo topic that no one wants to talk about, which is all about politics and what's going on politically in Charlotte and the surrounding areas. Now, stay tuned to the end of this video because I'm gonna let you know a little bit about Charlotte that makes us unique when it comes to politics. So if you're looking for everything Charlotte, the in, the out, the good, the bad, and everything in between, you've come to the right channel. Make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe below if you want to hear everything that has to do with Charlotte. And if you want to be notified of when our next video pops up, make sure to hit that little notification button and I'll be sure to pop into your inbox and let you know we're live. Now, I get calls, texts, emails every single day from people just like you looking to move to Charlotte, North Carolina. I really do. I can show you all of my inboxes. Now, here's the thing, whether it's 9 days or 90 days or even a year from now, that's right, it's not too soon to give me a shout. So if that is you, if you're looking to move either across the country or just across town, be sure to give me a call, a text, an email, set up a Zoom. I will make sure that your move is everything that you want it to be. So let's hop in for our content today. We're talking about the taboo topic of politics. That's right. This is not the kind of thing that most people sit down at the dinner table and talk about. And sometimes we don't even talk about it with friends. So if you're making the move to the area, you might not be sure who to talk to. Now, there's plenty of resources that you could probably go seek this out, but I'm going to give you some of the statistics. I'm also going to give you some of my experience living in the Charlotte and surrounding areas so that you know what to expect. So let's start with the basics. Is Charlotte liberal or conservative? Here's some cool things about Charlotte. Now, when I talk about Charlotte, I'm going to talk about it in two ways. One, Charlotte, the city, right? Now, the city of Charlotte actually encompasses most of Mecklenburg County, and I'm making a circle because that represents 485. 485 is the interstate that runs around. Don't ask me why it's called an interstate because it doesn't cross state lines, but you get the picture. Anyway, 485 goes all the way around Charlotte, and everything within that is the city of Charlotte as well as Mecklenburg County. Now, Charlotte just doesn't consist, in my mind, of just that city. In fact, Charlotte is made up of other towns surrounding it. From all the way up, you've got Huntersville, Mooresville. Out west, you've got Gastonia and Belmont. To the east, you have Concord and Matthews. And down south, you've got everywhere from Rock Hill and Fort Million, which are technically South Carolina. But they're all a part of Charlotte. So when I say Charlotte, I'm going to make sure I specify two different ways there. So now that we are all ready to discuss this, let's dive in. Charlotte leans left. Now, for those of you who lean right, don't come off this channel just yet. I've got some explanations here, so stick with me. Charlotte does lean predominantly left. And when I say Charlotte, in this instance, I mean the actual city of Charlotte. Now, some of you might not be surprised by that. In fact, most cities in the United States do lean usually predominantly to the left. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it also sometimes follows some of the demographics. Now, that could be income, that could be types of jobs, who you are, what you're about. There's a lot of things that make it up. But what you can follow and what is consistent city by city is that the city usually is a bit more democratic. You're going to find that in Charlotte as well, but stick with me, there's more. If you take a look at a map, which I do have a map here, it'll pop up on the screen. If you do take a look at the map of Charlotte and we're looking at the zoomed out view, you can see many of the towns that are surrounding Charlotte, they're all in the red. What does that mean? That means these are right leaning. So as you can see, Charlotte, right outside of the actual county of Mecklenburg, outside of the city of Charlotte, everything else is red, except for that little town of Wadesboro. So everything else is red. As we zoom in to Charlotte proper and we see some of the outskirts of those towns, they're still in red. What you're also going to notice in that zoomed in view is some of the differentiation of the neighborhoods in Charlotte and how they tend to sway. Now, granted, all of this, I did not create this map, all right? This is just statistics. This is census data. This is voting data that has been brought in from the districts. When we look at a close-up view of Charlotte, you're going to find there are areas that lean even farther to more of a liberal standpoint, and there are other areas that are a little bit more moderate. So it's very much intermixed. But the cool thing that I really love about Charlotte is how things are intermixed. So I'm going to give you some data, I'm going to give you some statistics, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more of my opinion on this and what I've actually experienced living not only in North Carolina, but Charlotte specifically. And yes, I do live in the city, but we'll get to that. So like I said, Mecklenburg County, which is really how I should be referring to it, Mecklenburg County is very liberal, as most cities are. In fact, 66.7% of the population in Mecklenburg County did vote Democratic in the last presidential election, while 31% voted Republican, and I'm rounding there. Now, while the last presidential election, of course, was voted predominantly on the left or the Democratic side, we do still have a pretty strong standing of Republicans who are in the surrounding areas. So if we're taking a look at Charlotte Metro, which would be the Mecklenburg County, and we incorporate the other areas around it, which would be the towns and cities that do touch Charlotte, North Carolina, in North Carolina. We're not including South Carolina in this particular poll. But if we're taking a look at Gastonia, Huntersville, Concord, those areas that really flank it, when we take those averages, it actually is moderate. Meaning we land right smack dab in the middle of Democratic and Republican. We are right smack in the middle. Now, in addition to that, North Carolina as a whole also hits right smack in the middle. We're not too far right-leaning, too far left-leaning. We hit everything in the middle. What you're going to notice when you look at these political maps from a statewide presence is, once again, those major cities or larger cities usually do go more to the Democratic side, as we will find in most cities around the country. But what you're also going to find, there's a lot of red in North Carolina. So there's a place for everyone. I'll put it that way. So let's talk about what you're going to notice while being in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the metro area. Because some of you might be saying, well, I want something a little bit more conservative, but I don't want to be out in the boonies. First off, there's really not a whole lot of boonies unless you really drive a little distance, but you can get some space. But you're also going to find a home still in the Charlotte metro area, and here is why. I have never run into an issue where people are truly butting heads politically from an actual out on the street standpoint. I've heard both sides have a voice. I've literally heard both sides. They both have a voice. They both have the ability to state their opinions, state their views without coming under attack. Now, granted, I think we've all felt that on either side at one time or another. But the nice thing that I see in Charlotte is that both sides are being taken account of and implemented from a government perspective. That's right. So you have people that are more left-leaning that want maybe more government programs. Then you have people more right-leaning that want less government involvement. Now, I know those are complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and yet both sides are met. It just depends upon what it's applying to. So what I like about that is I don't feel that my voice isn't heard. And that's something that I think is really important. I think everyone's voice should be heard instead of being brushed aside and dismissed. So if you're looking for a place where both sides are heard, both sides are present, and are both strong, then this is definitely the place. Now, I know some places like New York and California both lean very heavily liberal, while places like Florida and Texas are very largely conservative. Not saying either of those are wrong, however, it is nice to live in a place where, regardless of what side you're on or in, we're all in it together, and I feel like Charlotte really gets that. Now, when we're looking at elections, let's take a look at how we were voting the last couple of years. Now, this is looking specifically at presidential elections, and of course, we're looking just in the Charlotte metro area, which is Mecklenburg, because that's what these statistics are talking about. So keep in mind, everything outside of Charlotte actually went the opposite, which is very interesting. So inside the Charlotte metro area, in 2000, they actually voted Republican. Now, in the last 4 elections since then, they've voted Democratic. Now, obviously, that didn't determine the overall outcome of the elections, but just giving you some background as to how the metro area voted. Now, consistently, however, the areas around Charlotte metro area, around Mecklenburg, have consistently voted Republican. So once again, because there's a higher population in Mecklenburg County, of course, it will have weight when surrounding areas are all Republican. So we have that weight in Mecklenburg County, but we also have the population on the outskirts, which really makes that overarching area of Charlotte, including those outskirt areas, very even keeled, which I love. Now, another interesting thing to take a look at has to do with contributions to political parties. Now, I find this key piece of data very interesting. See, for the Democratic Party, there's a little over 36,000 contributors over the last 4 years to the presidential campaign. Now, here's why I find that to be very interesting. There were 36,000 contributors. The totals only reached $7,800,000. Now, to some of you, be like, well, that's a lot of money. I do agree, but here's the interesting part. The Republican Party only had contributions from 11,300 people, and yet they surpassed the actual dollar amount, totaling over 9 million in contributions. So less contributors, but higher donations. I do find that very interesting. I'm not going to say I'm a political major and can break that down as to what that truly means. But what I do see is that there are strong voices, maybe more so from the Democratic Party in the metro area, but also similarly strong, especially from the pockets in the Republican Party. So I don't know, it's just interesting. I just like sharing info like that. Now, I can go on and on about the specifics of who voted for what and where it happened, but here's one of the biggest things that I want to drive home. When it comes to Charlotte, including the surrounding areas around it, we see consistent growth, consistent money put into actual infrastructure in our communities and into our cities. I see consistent job growth, economy growth, and this is not just me and my experiences and my clients' experiences, but also from the data coming through showing that we truly are on a growth trajectory. Including that is that we have lower inflation than the rest of the country. And on top of that, because both sides are being heard and both sides are being implemented, in my personal opinion, that's a true democracy. And that is what I love about North Carolina and about Charlotte. And I know you're probably wondering, yeah, but what about Rock Hill and Fort Mill? Now, because they're in South Carolina, I didn't touch on them very much, but those do run predominantly Republican. And in the past years, they have pretty consistently voted Republican in both of those cities/towns. So with that, because they're kind of a part of Charlotte and the mindset of Charlotte, I would say they're also helping us become even more even-keeled. Now, why do I like even and not one side or another? Because I think both sides need to be heard. Doesn't matter what side you're on. If you're a good person, you got great ideas and you want to see growth and see other people experience opportunity, to see other people experience success, this is the place. And along with that, because of the growth of the city of Charlotte and the surrounding areas, and because North Carolina is rated in the top 10 best states for you to grow your small business, all of that combined truly makes one of the best places to live. So I hope you enjoyed the information you saw here. If you've got questions, comments, hey, put it down below. I'm all ears. And if you're wanting to move to the Charlotte and surrounding areas, including South Carolina, whether it's 9 days or 90 days from now, whether you're moving across the country or just across town, I hope to help you make your move exactly what you want it to be. Be sure to give me a call, text, email. All my info is in the description below. And until next time, I look forward to showing you around town.